is the host of Food Network's Burgers, Brew, and Q, and Symon's Dinners Cooking Out. And today, he's joining us from his home in Long Island to make a hearty pot of bolognese. Please say hello to Chef Michael Symon. Welcome, Chef. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here. Always love cooking.
Yeah, man, and you're amazing at it.
We're close.
And your dog's name is?
Norman.
There's comedy in that. I'm sorry, I love that.
I always think a dog should have a human name. Growing up, our dogs had human names, and every dog that Liz and I have had, we've always given them a human name.
Well, listen, man, we want to talk a lot about, we're going to make this recipe, but first I want to start with the book, Fix It with Food. The title says it all. I think it's genius. You're speaking my language. You basically details how you took inflammatory foods out of your diet. So tell us a little bit about what inspired the change.
So, I'm in my 50s now. I know you're incredibly surprised because I look like I'm in my 70s, but in my 50s. And I've suffered from RA and discoid lupus since I've been in my mid-20s, and kind of just had a lot of aches and pains and stuff from it, but kind of just blew it off like any good Greek Sicilian boy would do, just pretended it didn't exist. And as I got older, the aches and pains got a little bit harder to deal with. So I was like, all right, how can I adjust my diet to reduce inflammation, find what my triggers are, and just eat a little bit cleaner to alleviate the pain. And so I did that. It worked. So we decided to do a book about it. We go through the process. We teach people how to do it, how to identify your triggers, and then how to eat your way around them.
And you did a book about it. I mean, not just because you thought it was a cool thing that happened to you, but this affects so many people that don't even realize it. And we were talking earlier, and you said RA, which is rheumatoid arthritis, and you can do this. And now that was actually painful for you before, right? Using your hands.
Very painful.
There you go.
Well, like as Liz, my wife, always says, she goes, you wouldn't have done anything, but it started to affect how you held the golf club, and that changed everything.
I was trying to get all meaningful, but listen, you're speaking my language with golf too. I mean, you're reducing inflammatory foods, you're talking golf, you've got me in, I'm in. Okay, so now we're gonna make this yummy bolognese sauce, and this really kind of blows my mind a little bit because it's hearty, and it's sort of true to what we think of when we think bolognese, but what's the secret here?
So this is a vegetarian bolognese. Fortunately, it wasn't a trigger for me, but meat is a trigger, especially red meat is a trigger for a lot of people. Also, my wife, Liz, was a vegetarian for about 25 years, so we did a lot of vegetarian options in our cooking. So this is something where you can make that meat sauce that you grew up eating, especially if you grew up in an Italian family, but mushrooms are the secret to substitute for the meat. They have a huge umami blast. They give it the right texture, and it still has that hardiness that you're used to from the meats. And you can use any kind of mushrooms you want. Like, you could use buttons, you could use creminis, you could use shiitakes, you could use oysters. Just find what you could find at the grocery store. You could cut them all by hand. What I like to do, though, if you have a food processor, if you put them in your food processor, you could just pulse them, and they'll break up to almost they're like the consistency of what would be ground meat. And then you just start working them into your classic bolognese sauce. So, I have a pan down, medium high heat. We have basic mirepoix, which is onions, celery, carrots, a little bit of garlic in there. You would add those to the pan with a pinch of salt. You would add your mushrooms to the pan like you would your ground meat. And then you would just let this, the mirepoix and the mushrooms cook for about, 8 to 10 minutes. And they're going to brown up. They're going to break down. They're going to start to caramelize. All that magic's going to happen.
And then a little tomato paste in there too, toasted up in the pan?
Say it one more time.
Tomato paste?
So here's the one. I had this one going for about 10 minutes. So then once that mushroom mirepoix cooks down, you add your tomato paste. Okay. You let that get a little bit, my mom used to always say, let it get rusty. And you need that caramelization to happen to the tomato paste to bring out the sweetness.
I love it.
Then you add your milk, which you always have in a bolognese.
Now, full fat milk, you like going full fat with that?
I'm a whole fat kind of guy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you start using the skim and the this and the that, typically the pasteurization is not always the greatest thing for you. Also, sometimes there's added sugar in those milks. So I'm always full fat.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I am right with you.
It may explain a lot. So
come on now.
So this cooks down. Once that milk cooks down and cooks out,
yeah.
the tomatoes cook out, then you have all this flavor. And I have that one right here. So we're going to drop our pasta.
Yeah, well, this is the traditional Bolognese pasta, right?
This is a pappardelle or tagliatelle is a traditional noodle you would use for this. Gnocchi, cavatelli also would be delicious. So either of those. So in my water, I'm going to put, for every pound of pasta, you need about 2 tablespoons or so of salt to make sure that water's seasoned, because the water always works its way back into the pasta sauce. That's what gives your sauce that starchy body. So if you don't season your water, you're not going to have that consistency that you're looking for in your sauce.
That's so helpful to learn. That's fantastic. Okay, great.
It's the greatest trick of all time. My grandmother was from Sicily, and she always said she knew a great Italian cook from an average Italian cook by if they had to season their sauce after they added the pasta water. If the pasta water was seasoned perfectly, you didn't have to season your sauce. So that was her little trick on if she knew if someone was really crafty and good in the kitchen.
Oh, man.
So we take some of that pasta water out,
yeah,
and we add it to our cooked down bolognese. And when you add the pasta water, you give it a little swirl, get all the goodness up. And these are fresh noodles, so these noodles are going to cook very quickly, like in a minute. If you were cooking a dry noodle, you would be looking closer to probably 8 to 10 minutes. But I always cook the noodles about a minute less than I want them cooked, because you want them to finish cooking in the sauce. And when they finish cooking in the sauce, they absorb a lot of that flavor from the sauce, and that's where you really get that really delicious flavored pasta. So
Michael,
another great tip is slightly undercook your noodles so they could finish cooking in the sauce.
I'll tell you what, man.
Go in.
I'm already eating. I'm a little bit ahead of you.
You're fast.
I'm enjoying this. It's absolutely delicious. It's funny because, I do enjoy meat myself as well, and I don't miss it at all in this dish. You're a genius, my friend. Fix It with Food is the book, everybody. Catch more of Michael's great food on his website, michaelsymon.com. And, of course, you can catch this recipe at hallmarkchannel.com. Michael, I want to thank you so much for this. I know you're just catching up to me a little bit, but you're going to enjoy this.
You're a faster chef than me. No worries.
Well, I have a little help. Thanks.